Hi guys, I'm coming to you from my front yard, and today we're going to be looking at Unit 4. In your textbooks, you can follow along. We're going to start with Alfred Lord Tennyson on page 928. You should see this in your text in Google Classroom. So, Lord Tennyson was, according to his father, strangely brought up. He was one of 12 children. He had a varied life and didn't become a major success until he would hit his 40s and 50s. And we're going to read 3 poems that he wrote. The question that goes along with these poems is, how do you live life to the fullest? And it says, often this phrase is used to describe adventurous people, athletes, or connoisseurs. In your opinion, how does someone live their lives to their fullest? The first poem we're going to read is called The Lady of Shallot. So if you recall back in, I believe it was Unit 1, when we covered medieval literature, we talked a little bit about Camelot and King Arthur. This poem is reminiscent of those times. It's called The Lady of Shallot. I've heard a song adapted to this, but this is a poem. The Lady of Shallot. Part 1, 9:30. My cat's coming over here. Hold on just a minute. 9:30. On either side of the river lie long fields of barley and of rye, the clothe the wold and meet the sky, and through the field the road runs by to many-towered Camelot. And up and down the people go, gazing where the lilies blow, round the island there below, the island of Shallot. Willows whiten, aspens quiver, little breezes dusk and shiver, throw waves that run forever by the island in the river, flowing down to Camelot. 4 gray walls and 4 gray towers overlook a space of flowers, and in the silent isle embowers the Lady of Shallot. So I'm going to stop right here and give you the setup for this poem, which is there is someone embowered, which means she is encapsulated. She is in this tower that is on an island, and that island is called Shallot, and nearby is the kingdom of Camelot. We don't know why she's there, but we know she cannot leave. By the margin willow veiled, slide the heavy barges trailed, by slow horse and unhailed, the Shallot flitteth silken sailed, skimming down to Camelot. But who hath seen her wave her hand, or at the casement seen her stand, or is she known in all the land, the Lady of Shallot? So here we see the last line is repeated, the Lady of Shallot, the Lady of Shallot. All of the lines end like that. And we see some alliteration. I'll point that out. Skimming down to Camelot, but who has seen her wave her hand? And the casement is the window. So on page 932, only reapers reaping early in among the bearded barley hear a song that echoes clearly from the river winding. Hear a song that echoes cheerily from the river winding clearly down to towered Camelot. And by the moon the reaper weary, piling sheaves in uplands airy, listening whispers, 'tis the fairy Lady of Shallot. So fairy back then meant beautiful. So a fairy woman might have been a beautiful woman. And so all the workers around the area, they know who she is, and they hear her singing. So they can't see her face, but they can hear her singing. There she weaves by night and day a magic web with colors gay. She has heard a whisper say, a curse is on her if she stay to look down to Camelot. She knows not what the curse may be, and so she weaveth steadily. A little other care hath she, the Lady of Shallot. And moving through the mirror clear that hangs before her all the year, shadows of the world appear. There she sees the highway near, winding down to Camelot. There the river eddy whirls, and there the surly village churls, and the red cloaks of market girls pass onward from Shallot. So we see here the only way that the Lady of Shalott can see things going on is looking in her mirror, which looks down to Camelot. A curse is on her if she were to actually look out the window. So she can't look out the window. She can only see what's happening through the mirror. And so she sees all the things going by. She sees the ships passing by. She sees the people out there reaping. She sees the village churls. A village churl is someone who's a person that is a lower class member of the village. She sees those along with the wealthy people too. She sees it all from her window. Sometimes a troop of damsels glad, or an abbot on an ambling pad, sometimes a curly shepherd lad, or a long-haired page in crimson clad, goes by toward Camelot, and sometimes through the mirror blue the knights come riding two and two. She hath no loyal knight and true, the Lady of Shalott. So we see she's looking out. She sees these knights coming down the road, but she doesn't have a knight. She doesn't have a knight in shining armor of her own. But in her web she still delights to weave the mirror's magic sights. For often through the silent nights a funeral with plumes and lights and music went to Camelot. Or when the moon was overhead came two young lovers lately wed. I'm half sick of shadows, said the Lady of Shalott. So we see here in the last part of part 2, she's looking down, she sees these two young lovers. They're walking out after their wedding, and she says, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of looking at these shadows of things. I want to see the real thing. I want to participate. So right now she's very safe inside her tower. Nothing can harm her. The curse is not broken, but she's tired of it. She wants to be a part of the real world. Part 3. A bow shot from her bower's eaves, he rode between the barley sheaves. The sun came dazzling through the leaves, and flamed upon the brazen greaves of bold Sir Lancelot. A red-cross knight forever kneeled to a lady in his shield, that sparkled on a yellow field beside remote Shalott. So we see that red-cross knight means he's been to the Crusades, and he is good-looking. The gemmy bridle glittered free, like to some branch of stars we see, hung in the golden galaxy. The bridle bells ring merrily as he rode down to Camelot. And from his blazoned bridle baldric slung, a mighty silver bugle hung. As he rode, his armor rung beside remote Shalott. So she not only sees the sparkling in the mirror of his bridle and all the shiny things of his armor, she hears it jingling. So she sees it and hears it in her. She hears it with her ears, but she sees it in the mirror. All in the blue and clouded weather, thick jeweled shone the saddled leather, the helmet and the helmet feather burned like one burning flame together as he rode down to Camelot. As often through the purple night, below the starry clusters bright, some bearded meteor trailing light moves over still Shalott. So after this great knight walks by, she sees a meteor. His broad, clear brow in sunlight glowered. On burnished hooves his war horse trode. From underneath his helmet flowed his coal-black curls as on he rode. As he rode down to Camelot from the river, from the bank and from the river, he flashed into the crystal mirror. Tira-lira by the river, sang Sir Lancelot. She left the web, she left the loom, she made 3 paces through the room. She saw the water lily bloom. She saw the helmet and the plume. She looked down to Camelot. Out flew the web and floated wide. The mirror cracked from side to side. The curse has come upon me, cried the Lady of Shalott. So now she's done it. She has actually looked out the window. So once she looks out the window, curse. Part 4. In the stormy east wind straining, the pale yellow woods were waning, the broad stream in his banks complaining, heavily the low sky raining over towered Camelot. Down she came and found a boat beneath a willow left afloat, and round about the prow she wrote, the Lady of Shalott. So why does she write her name on this boat? There's going to be a reason. And down the river's dim expanse, like some bold seer in a trance, seeing all his own mischance, with glassy countenance did she look to Camelot. And at the closing of the day she loosed the chain, and down she lay. The broad stream bore her far away, the Lady of Shalott. So basically what she does, she sees this boat, she writes her name on the prow, she gets into it, she lies down, puts her arms out wide, and the day is closing, which means it's the end of the day, which I guess is that symbolism, which is her end of her days. Lying robed in snowy white, the loosely flew to left and right, the leaves upon her falling light. Through the noises of the night she floated down to Camelot. Through the noises of the night she floated down to Camelot, and as the boat head wound along the willowy hills and fields among, they heard her singing her last song, the Lady of Shalott. Heard a carol mournful, holy, chanted loudly, chanted lowly, till her blood was frozen slowly, and her eyes were dark and holy, turned toward Camelot. For ere she reached upon the tide, the first house by the waterside, singing her last song, she died, the Lady of Shalott. So she's dead at this point. Under the tower and balcony, by garden wall and gallery, a gleaming shape she floated by, dead pale between the houses high, silent into Camelot. Out upon the wharves they came, knight and burgher, lord and dame, and round the prow they read her name, the Lady of Shalott. So as we see, even though she's dead, she's still floating down this river, and everybody's coming out on their wharves and docks, and they're saying, who is this beautiful lady in a white gown? What's going on? Who is this and what is here? And in that lighted place near died the sound of royal cheer, and as they crossed themselves for fear, all the knights at Camelot. But Lancelot mused a little space. He said, she has a lovely face. God in his mercy lend her grace, the Lady of Shalott. So we see all this time, the main reason she left her safe, secure tower was for this one knight called Lancelot. And when he sees her at the end, he said, she's got a pretty face, but he probably never knew that she was the reason that she left her safe tower. I really like this poem, and I hope you did too.